The Balboa Yacht Club wasn't always like that. There were almost more sandbars than navigable waters when Balboa Yacht Club began its days as the Southland Sailing Club. BYC has grown with the harbor and Southern California. Until today, it is one of the senior yacht clubs on the West Coast, with a distinguished history of yacht racing and service to youth and the community.
The clubhouse and facilities on Bayside Drive has evolved over nearly a century to provide waterfront access while meeting the changing yachting needs of the membership. And for all the shore facilities and boats in the harbor, it would be the volunteerism of the dedicated members that would define the soul of the club. Leadership of yacht clubs stems from their Commodores. Elected by fellow club members, the Commodore presides over the yacht club's business, sets a vision for the future, and participates in yachting traditions older than this country, and eventually they'll enjoy the unique celebrity of the title as Staff Commodores. Perhaps no Commodore was more recognizable than Isaac B. Potter, BYC's first Commodore in 1922. Commodore Potter had already been the second Commodore of Newport Harbor Yacht Club in 1918.
Potter led the organization's meeting at the first clubhouse at 917 East Bayfront, Balboa. At that time, Balboa was principally a weekend and summer resort with many open beaches instead of today's packed islands and shores. Under Commodore Potter's leadership, the club was incorporated in 1924 and joined the SCYA that same year. It was in 1927, during Commodore Bostwick's term, that the leadership of the club made one of its biggest moves. A rowing club had been added with the donation of 2 8-man rowing shells, and the small boat racers in their snowbirds were now joined by large sailing cruisers and power boatsmen. This now encompassed a more diversified membership, and a name change was suggested by Henry E. Miller to call Southland Sailing Club the Balboa Yacht Club. In 1932, Commodore E.G. Sherman was instrumental in getting the Olympic Committee to select the Snowbird as the single-handed entry for that year's Olympics to be sailed in Los Angeles Harbor. It was BYC's junior sailor Billy Lyons who won the selection trials and went on to take 7th in the Olympics. The Snowbird was a hugely popular class, and many may have heard of the Flight of the Snowbird, which was once the biggest regatta on the West Coast. After changing the club's name and successfully weathering the Depression of the 1930s, Commodore E.G. Sherman, 32, proposed a new slogan which was adopted: "A pound of pluck is worth a ton of luck." Upon approval by the membership, he had it lettered on the fireplace plaque mantle. That plaque was later found by Alex Irving in the cellar in the basement of the current clubhouse, restored and returned to its position of prominence above the fireplace in the Bayview dining room. In 1938, Commodore-to-be Fred Huney began building his 40-foot sloop Indifferent, a double-ender of his own design. Fred and his wife Jerry set sail in September of that year and cruised to Tahiti, and was the first boat to fly the BYC Burgee in the South Pacific. Upon their return, Huney prepared to enter his boat in the 1941 Transpac race, making him the first BYC entry into that race. It was Commodore H.F. Batchelor in 1938 who dealt with another push to relocate the club. Several good sites were open, and our present site was chosen. However, the Irvine Company refused to sell. It was only after many personal meetings with James Irvine and some arm-twisting by the 1940 Commodore Howard Baker and his team of negotiators that they extracted a lease agreement. On Sunday, April 6, 1941, Commodore Ed Reason broke ground on the new site. BYC members agreed to a bid of $15,000 to build the new clubhouse. The members put up $5,000, and the Irvine Company financed the $10,000 balance. That BYC made its first attempt to establish a base on Catalina by leasing the old Pacific Writers Yacht Club at the Isthmus for $50 a year. This dream and much of the yacht club operations were cut short with the bombing of Pearl Harbor and the outbreak of World War II. The harbor was sealed off and many BYC members enlisted in the armed forces. Those left behind pooled food stamps and gas coupons to keep the club going, and the racing continued, with PCs, roads, and dinghy fleets supplying the competition. In 1945, Commodore Mark Healy, sensing a return to a more normal yachting life, would be back soon. So he sparked a drive for the club to build its first launch by offering to supply an engine if the members would contribute the funds needed for construction. They did, and the members got their first shore boat. That same year, BYC sailors began campaigning again for national sailing titles. Bob White and his twin sister Betty, now Mrs. Alan V. Andrews as crew, traveled to Chicago and won the International Snipe World Championship. An article from Motorboating Magazine, May 1945, said about BYC, even through wartime, the organization has made many improvements and continues to do so. And when peace comes, the club will acquire more footage along the beach and add more rooms to their dormitories. The post-war era, which will see these and other plans realized, cannot come too soon. R.G. Pinnock, Jr., Motorboating Magazine. Commodore Robert Boyd wanted to improve the communications with the membership and established a monthly club bulletin called the Balboa Yacht Club News. In his first Commodores column, in the spring of 1947, he organized a contest for naming the publication with a $20 money order as a prize. The name Tailwind was submitted by Marge Brown, judged the winner, and another BYC tradition was born. Originally, the name was 2 words, but somewhere along the way, it was finally contracted into one. Under Commodore Harry Blodgett, there was a great expansion in the need for more access to the water. So in 1951, the small boat parking area was laid out and the hoist and dinghy docks were established in the South Yard. It was also a momentous occasion when the final payment was made to the Irvine Company and BYC burned the mortgage as part of that year's Halloween party. In 1953, the growth of the club continued to place pressures on the facilities. Commodore L.B. Wheeler oversaw the clubhouse expansion to add the present bar along the sun deck, an enlarged dining room, lockers, offices, and other facilities. While all of these Commodores spent much of their time managing the club affairs on shore, their hearts and minds were often at sea. In 1957, Commodore Chip Cleary signed an agreement with the Catalina Island Company that gave us access to what we now call White's Cove. It was formerly the site of a silver mine, and during the war, all of the island had been a training base for the military. So it took time before cruisers would return. Thanks to members' untold hours of hard work, from bricklaying to landscaping to carpentry and painting, this facility became a treasured getaway site for members to enjoy for years to come. The 1960s saw the growth of one design sailing in classes such as the Lido 14s, Lehman 12s, and Twitchell's. One design sailing was widely enjoyed by all ages of BYC's membership. Any history of Balboa Yacht Club must include a litany of its famed members and their successes in some of yachting's most highly acclaimed competitions. Sailors like John Aarons, Lou Barry, Argyle Campbell, Dick Deaver, Andy Rose, Nick Scandone, and Dave Ullman are all names etched in BYC's Wall of Fame, Lipton Cups, Congressional Cups, and Olympic medals. But it was in 1967 when, under Commodore Frank Lynch's year, the Governor's Cup Youth Match Racing competition began. There are few sailing events that have impacted Balboa Yacht Club more than the Governor's Cup. For more than half of the club's 100 years, the Gov Cup has dominated the summer sailing season at BYC for junior sailors and a sea of volunteer members who make it happen. The Governor's Cup was established by the late Chet and Glee Purcell, the parents of 2001's Commodore Tom Purcell. They had a vision that a national match racing competition should be created for younger sailors, similar in format to the internationally recognized Congressional Cup Regatta. California Governor, late U.S. President Ronald Reagan granted the deed of gift for the Governor's Cup to Balboa Yacht Club in 1967.
But you know, it's like everything else, it's become a sophisticated signature event. You don't have to tell anybody what it is anymore, they all know. But boy, you certainly need to work the system to get the people to show up.
As the years progressed, the Governor's Cup grew in popularity, with its first international team participating in 1989. Since then, teams from the United Kingdom, New Zealand, Australia, Brazil, Finland, and Spain have participated and become regular entrants and often multiple winners. The Cup has served as a gateway for future champions in collegiate competition, Congressional Cup, Swedish Match Tour, the Olympics, and numerous America's Cups. Norbert Bajurin, last U.S. Commodore to oversee and defend the America's Cup, said it best. The Governor's Cup is the America's Cup for youth. Truer words were never spoken. BYC can be very proud of this illustrious history. With slight twists and turns brought on by the changing times, growth of Newport Beach, and innovation in boating, each Commodore had to plan for challenges, opportunities, as well as the unknown, and then chart the right course for BYC.
BYC has a combination of sailing, power boating, cruising, racing, angling activities. We also have great onshore activities and down-to-earth members.
We're a boating club, and as we stay a boating club, and we will have a strong future. There's only so much access to the water. We're fortunate that we have this spot to be able to have access to the water, and that's really the strongest thing that we need to look at, is maintain that. We maintain our membership that wants access to the water. They want to be able to race their dinghies. They want to be able to store their boats in our mooring field and in our marina. They want to be able to go to Catalina from here. So that's what binds us together, is the water, the boats, and the access to that.
They started in sabbats and grew into one-design sailors, match racers, and offshore warriors, covering the 2,600 mile to Hawaii or sprinting to Ensenada or Cabo. It's about the access we provide to the harbor, ocean, and islands, which is so limited, it's so appreciated. It's about fishing fleets, cruise fleets, one-design fleets that are enjoyed by families and friends as a part of their love of the sea and respect for all marine life therein. It's about Balboa Yacht Club's volunteers, young and old, who care enough to give back with their time, expertise, and passion. The race committees, the mark-set boats, the boatswains and riggers, the coaches, concerns captains overseeing White's Cove. As we look back over the exciting last 100 years and ponder what the future may have in store for the Balboa Yacht Club, we should not lose sight of the club's greatest traditions. It is a tradition which concerns all BYC members and all of our professional staff. The tradition is Balboa Yacht Club's desire to be a community of dedicated friends with a passion for yachting. This effort to bring the history of this great club to life closes with an expression of hope that in the near future, just as in the past, our members will always respect the past while continuing to provision for for the future. This is as it should be.